Hi, I'm Terry Carter, and this is a vlog recorded for discussion board number 1, HIUS 512, the American Revolution for Liberty University. I'm here today at historic St. Paul's Church in Norfolk, Virginia. Norfolk was founded in the 1630s, and St. Paul's was founded in 1739 as a borough church. And I wanted to come here and do this because during the American Revolution in January of 1776, Lord Dunmore, the previous governor of Virginia, began an attack on Norfolk and bombarded the city from ships in the Elizabeth River. And the Americans, as they withdrew in face of the British troops, set the city on fire, and St. Paul's was completely gutted. 9 years later, when they went about rebuilding the church, they discovered a cannonball that was left in the yard from the attack. And as they rebuilt the church, they actually encompassed the cannonball into the masonry of the church, and it's there today, and you can see it. But what I'm really here for is to talk about the idea of Calvinist ideas and how they relate to Republican ideas. And I'm going to be talking today about the chapter Vindice Contra Tyranos, the influence of the Reformed tradition in the American founding. This is from the book Faith and the Founders of the American Republic by Mark David Hall and Daniel L. Dreisbach. Mark David Hall argues that most historians ignore the role of Calvinism in the framing of America, and that's because they tend to focus on the major players. Obviously, George Washington, who was an Anglican, Thomas Jefferson, who was an Anglican but really a seeker, and also James Madison, who was an Anglican, like most of the planter class, but he has another influence on him that is strictly from Calvinism, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. According to Sidney Alstrom, the Reformed tradition was the religious heritage of 3/4 of the American people in 1776. Patricia Benami and Peter Eisenstadt, in their article Church Adherence in the 18th Century British American Colonies, found that outside of New England, Calvinism was less dominant, but by 1776, Reformed congregations accounted for 51% and 58% of the churches in the middle and southern colonies, respectively. So what is the Reformed tradition? Well, 3 of the major tenets of the Reformed tradition are justification by faith, the priesthood of all believers, and no man is infallible. There was also a general belief that God had created instruments to help sinful man to be able to have relationships and create a stable society. These institutions were the family, the church, and the state. Because authority was created by God, Christians had an obligation to obey the law or the king. The question was, were there limitations on that? After years of persecution and instability in the English government, many Calvinists believed that since government consisted of men and no man was infallible, perhaps they needed to define a different relationship with the government. As the generation that would create a new nation came of age, a vehicle for Reformed theology or tradition were the universities, including the College of New Jersey, known today as Princeton University. Of great influence for the Reformed Church at Princeton was President John Witherspoon, 1723 to 1794. Witherspoon was a Scot and a Presbyterian minister. He was a graduate of the University of Edinburgh, and he was influenced both by Calvinist theology and by the Scottish Enlightenment. One of the great teachers and writers of the Scottish Enlightenment was George Buchanan, 1506 to 1582. In How the Scots Invented the Modern World, Arthur Herman shows the impact of the Scottish Enlightenment on Western thought. In 1579, 50 years before John Locke was born, Buchanan wrote The Law of Government Among the Scots. In it, Buchanan asserted that all political authority ultimately belonged to the people, who came together to elect someone whether a king or a body of magistrates, to manage their affairs. The people were always more powerful than the rulers. They were free to remove them at will. The people, he explained, have the right to confer the royal authority upon whomever they wish. In both the content and method of engaging his students, Witherspoon instilled these ideas of the Reformed tradition. These ideas would influence the founders of the new government. These ideas were foundational and far-reaching. Hall remarks, under President Witherspoon, the College of New Jersey produced 5 delegates to the Constitutional Convention, including several Presbyterian ministers, 1 U.S. President, James Madison, the Anglican, a vice president, the notorious Aaron Burr, can't get everything right, 49 U.S. representatives, 28 U.S. senators, 3 Supreme Court justices, 1 Secretary of State, 3 attorney generals, and 2 foreign ministers. Hall also notes that of the 178 graduates under Witherspoon between 769 and 1775, only 2 became loyalists. These individuals would carry on the ideas of individual liberty, the importance of a free people acting in accordance with their beliefs, and a limited government into the creation of a new nation. Thank you.